Why would a leader welcome deported citizens with open arms instead of shame? Ibrahim Traore saw shackled returnees not as failures, but as the bright future of Burkina Faso. What bold plan does he have to rebuild the nation with them? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Imagine stepping off a plane, feeling the weight of shackles digging into your wrists as the place you once called home stretches before you. For many Burkinabè citizens deported from the United States, this was their reality, a return not marked by celebration, but by constraints that seemed to echo their perceived failures. These men and women, once captivated by the promise of a better life abroad, were forced back to familiar soil under the constant scrutiny of unforgiving circumstances. The emotional toll of deportation begins long before the flight. Bound and vulnerable, their return was carried out in a state that starkly reduced their dignity. For those who boarded that journey to leave, the departure from Burkina Faso had carried something different, a fragile mix of hope and necessity. Many left with dreams of escaping poverty, contributing to their families, and building brighter futures. The United States represented opportunity for them, a land held up as one where hard work could change lives. But the reality proved far harsher. Discrimination, isolation, and limited opportunities often chipped away at their optimism. For some, the struggle became unbearable: unstable job markets, paperwork hurdles to achieve legal status, exploitation by employers, and, in worst cases, accusations or arrests leading to deportation. The dreams they built turned into a mirage, fading against the heavy pressures of surviving in a foreign land where they were not fully welcomed. Behind these collective stories are deeply personal experiences. A young man, Musa, left his village with nothing but a suitcase and the determination to send his family enough money to educate his younger siblings. Once in America, he landed a job as a delivery driver, earning barely enough to cover his rent and food. Even then, Musa carried on, until a traffic stop revealed his undocumented status. Detained and deported, Musa's years of struggle came crashing down in a matter of days. Another returnee, Aminata, worked tirelessly as a nanny, building a quiet life in New York before discriminatory housing policies and sky-high rent forced her onto an unstable path. Her visa expired without a way to renew it, and deportation began to loom over her until it finally became her reality. Such individuals left with vision and passion, but returned with visible battle scars. Beyond personal hardship, deportation practices often amplify the sense of shame. According to studies, deportees frequently face public humiliation during their removal, including being handcuffed and paraded through airports. Moreover, research shows that the psychological impact of being removed, often after years of difficult labor and regret-filled sacrifices, stays with these individuals for years. Back in Burkina Faso, many of these citizens know they'll face stigmatization. They anticipate the whispers behind their backs, questions about what went so wrong, and the unavoidable embarrassment of returning with less than they left with. Homecoming for them becomes another chapter of anguish rather than relief. Then, in what felt like the lowest of moments, Ibrahim Traore entered. The young leader had the courage to see these returnees not as a symbol of failure, but as untapped potential. At the airport, where shame could easily consume them, Traore delivered words that interrupted the narrative they carried. He addressed them as his people, as compatriots who bore the same hopes he held for Burkina Faso's future. This was no empty welcome speech. His words carried a deeper message. Traore dismissed the idea of deportation defining their worth. Instead, he reframed their stories, not as endings, but beginnings. Traore's intervention invoked a transformation in how the deported viewed themselves. His statement, inspired by resilience, redefined their return as a pivotal moment of opportunity. This isn't the end. What you have seen, what you have endured, is proof of your strength. Now we rise together. For every ashamed face, his words offered a new narrative to embrace, one centered on agency rather than loss. What followed next was a strategy meticulously designed by Traoré to turn his empowering words into national development. The vision he had for these returnees wasn't abstract, it was rooted in action. In their hands, Traoré saw the ability to drive economic progress, not as remnants of failure, but as the architects of a new Burkina Faso. What kind of leader steps into a tense, emotionally charged environment and sees opportunity where some would only see broken dreams? As deported citizens arrived back in Burkina Faso, shackled and burdened with the weight of what many might label failure, Ibrahim Traore stood before them with an entirely different perspective. At the airport, where discomfort and shame hung heavy in the air, Traore's speech dismantled these emotions with a sharp and empathetic tone. You are not here as failures. You are not a burden. You are our future. You are our resources, and you will help us build the future of Burkina Faso. These words were not just a gesture of encouragement. They were a profound redefinition of purpose. While many leaders might have either ignored or pitied the arrivals, Traore flipped the script completely. He chose to focus on their untapped potential, recognizing the experiences they had gained during their time abroad despite the hardships they endured. His words acknowledged their struggles but placed greater emphasis on their resilience. Many of you left in search of a better life, and you've gained experience, knowledge, and skills that will help us rebuild this country. With this, Traore delivered something powerful that had been missing: validation. He didn't see these returnees through the lens of what they lacked, but through the potential they brought with them. Across the globe, stories of deportation often follow a repetitive pattern. Repatriated citizens are returned like cargo, with little regard for emotional closure or integration. Instead of receiving support, deportees frequently find themselves isolated, blamed, or cast aside by the very nations to which they've been returned. In Burkina Faso, prior administrations often reflected this detached approach, layering individuals' personal struggles with a broader failure to address systemic inequality or corruption. Traoré's vision, however, went in a different direction. Instead of letting these returnees languish in social limbo, he reframed their return as an invitation to contribute to something greater, an active role in rebuilding the country. Too many African politicians have failed you, have failed all of us. They are corrupt, selfish, and have no shame, Traoré said, publicly condemning the cycles of neglect that characterize much of Burkina Faso's history. These words weren't just political theater. They were foundational to the argument he made that change was not only possible, but necessary. Here, Traoré's rhetoric revealed deeper ideas, a break from the divisive policies of the past, and an insistence on an inclusive future. If previous leaders had perpetuated exclusion, Traoré was intent on bringing people together, including those like the returnees, whose confidence and value had been fractured by their experiences abroad. Still, speeches alone don't rebuild nations. Traoré acknowledged this and made the bold decision to pair his vision with something tangible: the launch of a new program called Future Builders. Far more than a symbolic gesture, this initiative was designed to give the deportees a path forward. It focused on creating jobs tied directly to national development, offering opportunities to work in infrastructure, education, and even healthcare. You will not be left behind, Traoré promised. You will be the leaders of the new Burkina Faso. Behind these words was an understanding that these individuals didn't need pity. They needed purpose and a chance to lead the change he envisioned for the country. Traoré's emphasis on unity underlined everything he proposed. This approach contrasted sharply with traditional political narratives in Burkina Faso, which often leaned on divisions or fear. Instead of widening gaps, Traoré painted a picture of a renewed national identity, in which every citizen, no matter their journey, had a role to play. His belief in the potential of the repatriated citizens demonstrated his broader commitment to challenging the old ways of doing things. But now questions remain. How will Traoré ensure this vision translates into action? Can hope alone carry a nation forward? With the framework of the Future Builders program announced, the next phase begins. Turning this vision into reality will require more than speeches. It will demand careful planning, resources, and unwavering resolve amid challenges that will test the program's ambitions from every angle. Turning promises into tangible outcomes isn't easy, especially in a nation like Burkina Faso, where resources are stretched thin and the past weighs heavily on the present. The Future Builders program, launched under Ibrahim Traore's leadership, aimed to transform the energy of returning citizens into a driving force for national recovery. For both the government and the returnees, this was more than a project. It was both a test of resilience and an ambitious experiment in redefining the country's future. The program sought to address the immediate struggles of returnees while tackling broader issues that had long plagued Burkina Faso. Upon their arrival, many of these citizens faced not just emotional challenges, but financial precarity and a deep uncertainty about how they would reintegrate into their communities. The effort to support them didn't stop at words. Future builders directly linked their experiences abroad to roles they could take up at home. For example, individuals with construction skills developed in the U.S. were placed in public works initiatives, helping repair roads and build infrastructure in underserved regions. Teachers who had worked in foreign schools were recruited to reduce education gaps in villages. Even those with entrepreneurial experience were encouraged to spearhead local businesses and artisanal trades, revitalizing stagnant economies in rural areas. But optimism alone wouldn't pave this road. Traore's government faced a tide of obstacles while launching Future Builders. For decades, the nation had struggled with economic instability and widespread corruption, sowing a general mistrust in ambitious governmental initiatives. Funding the program became one of the first hurdles, as Burkina Faso's economy was already burdened by limited GDP growth and dependency on foreign aid. Traore's anti-corruption stance further complicated matters, as cracks in governance systems meant many political and business leaders resisted redistributing resources or implementing reforms. On top of this, opposition figures criticized the program, claiming it would funnel resources into a group of individuals they called unproven, instead of addressing the needs of more established sectors. Despite these challenges, momentum began to build. The program's focus on infrastructure tapped into one of the country's most pressing needs: reliable roads, irrigation systems, and housing. Instead of relying solely on international contractors or aid, Traore's government put returnees at the forefront of these projects. One early success emerged with the construction of water pipelines in the drought-stricken southeast. Returnees with plumbing or engineering skills were tasked with planning and executing the work, creating tangible change while building trust in their capabilities. Slowly, it became harder for opponents to dismiss the program as impractical. Another pillar of the initiative centered on education. Traore's administration had long emphasized the need to reduce illiteracy and expand opportunities for youth. As part of Future Builders, returnees with formal training were brought into schools as teachers and mentors. Beyond providing classroom instruction, these individuals became living testimonies to the power of perseverance and adaptability. Stories emerged of school children being inspired by teachers who relayed their personal experiences abroad. Not just failures, but the lessons learned through struggle. Each moment in these classrooms became part of a larger effort to ensure the returnees weren't seen as outsiders, but as key participants in shaping the nation's future. The ripple effects of the program extended into industry. Small-scale manufacturing facilities delighted in hiring returnees with hands-on expertise, particularly in agriculture and textiles. By reconnecting Burkinabè citizens to these essential sectors, the nation not only boosted local production, but began reducing its dependency on imported goods. Economists watching from abroad remarked that this shift, while still in its early stages, could potentially help stabilize Burkina Faso's trade balance if the model proved sustainable. It was evident that the success of Future Builders had implications far beyond providing work. It was a statement about the country reclaiming its autonomy. The early signs of success gave space for cautious hope. Returnees like Musa, once burdened by the shame of deportation, spoke publicly about finding new purpose through the program. His work on rural housing projects had not only helped alleviate housing shortages, but had also restored his sense of pride. "I thought I had lost everything," he shared, "but now I see I have a place here, to build, to contribute, and to belong." Still, the challenges loom large. Sustainability remains the biggest hurdle. Can the program expand enough to maintain its momentum? Will political resistance tighten its grip as future builders continues to gain attention? These questions remain, but one thing is clear. Traore's vision is already shifting dynamics within Burkina Faso in an undeniable way. His dream of a self-reliant, resilient nation isn't just anchored in practice. It's becoming a symbol of what a unified future for Africa might look like. The journey of these returnees mirrors the transformation of Burkina Faso itself, a nation shifting from dependence and despair to resilience and self-reliance. Under Traore's leadership, their hardships were reframed into strength, becoming the foundation for a bold vision of progress. The Future Builders program isn't just about development. It's a statement that people, no matter the challenges they've faced, are the true resources of a nation. What if more leaders saw their citizens this way, not as problems to fix, but as solutions waiting to rise? Traore's story is proof that dignity and opportunity can spark change for an entire continent.